Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I am your host, as always, Professor Prime. Welcome to my Math in the World series, the series where I look at math and how it relates to and connects with different subjects, different fields, different interests of mine, different interests of other people, and even different mediums and different franchises. And it's an ongoing series that I am enjoying. So one of my first videos in the series was math and gaming, and I had an absolute blast with it. And many topics in that video could easily be videos of their own. And I actually took one of those topics in the video about combat and like combat systems in gaming, and I did make a video about that. It was pretty extensive, and there was a lot of stuff about RPGs in there because, well, there's a lot to say about combat systems in those type of games. Like, they've really evolved over time, and that's been interesting to look at. So anyway, with that video, I didn't want it to be too long, but I covered a lot, and I was okay with that at the time. But thinking about it, I'm like, hey, I could actually talk about that a little bit more, and I wanted to kind of focus on a few games. I wanted to focus on Nier Automata, my favorite game of all time, and I also wanted to focus on Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And I'll talk about a couple other games just loosely as we go on with that. But yeah, that's the focus of this video. So I'm gonna let myself take the rest. Take the charge. All right, welcome to my third video on math and gaming, and my second one that focuses on combat. So let's get into it. Nier Automata. It is my favorite game, something that I've definitively decided this year. It plays incredibly well. And combat, of course, is a big part of it. Otherwise, why talk about it here, right? So I wanted to give some brief history, though, before getting into the math behind it. And I think that'll make sense when we get into it. So let's go. So with Nier Automata, it is a collaboration between Square and Platinum Games. Two big companies. Like, Square is a bit bigger, but Platinum Games is no slouch. But I bring up who made the game because in a previous video, Devil May Cry was one of the franchises that I talked about in that last gaming video, and the combat in it. And the initial team that made Devil May Cry, they went on to create a lot of games for Capcom, but then they went on to also create their own developing team / company, and that ended up being Platinum Games. And they have a signature style that is very much reminiscent of Devil May Cry, and it's expanded and grown over time. And I feel like Devil May Cry and Platinum Games have kind of fed off of each other, and they kind of evolved together. And so that's been interesting to look at. So some of the combat, I feel like, from Devil May Cry naturally impacts this game. And I think that's interesting. But yeah, so let's get into it, though, because like I said, it's my favorite game. It's got a lot of good things going for it. It has great visuals, great audio, great music. It is incredibly philosophical. It'll make you think, and it'll take you places. Very emotional, and it's easy to get invested in it. And one of the really big highlights in an already excellent game is its combat. There's so many things that you could do. Of course, if you start off with levels, you start off low, you gain experience to level up and dish out more damage to your opponents while taking less damage for your opponents. A lot of math involved in that. But we can get even more specific. So there's a couple forms of combat in the game. Like there's the traditional hack and slash element, and then there's shooting segments, and later on still a shooter segment, but hacking, and it operates differently. So I wanted to get into those sort of things and how what you're doing in the game helps you get better and helps you get helps you improve. Well, that was redundant, but we're going to keep it going. So, like I said, you have the level part, right? But here's the cool thing: as you go through the game, right? You defeat your opponents, you unlock treasure chests and all that. You get chips. You have a certain amount of chips that you can get, and these chips allow certain upgrades. And one of them is experience based. Some of them like allow you to attack um, better. Some allow you to have higher defense. There's some that let you recharge your health a little bit better over time. There's some that allow you to actually drain damage from your opponent, so yours increases. I mean, so your health increases. So you're draining health to gain health. Drain so you gain. And that's not a bad way to go at all, right? It's like you not only are you healing, but you're dishing out damage to your opponents, and that's awesome. And the thing is, not only do you have your regular resource management where you're looking at, hey, I have a certain amount of slots open for health items and status effect healers. There's a better way to say that, but you also have to consider your chips and how many slots you have in there so you can improve. And in this game, when you die, you do get rebooted, but you have to find your initial body. If you find your initial body, you will get to keep your experience, and you get a certain bonus with that. And so numbers plays a role in all of that, right? And the idea is like, hey, I want to gain more experience so I can dish out more damage, so I can take less damage. And there's so much that supports that. And then when you're actually fighting your opponent, right? You have your heavy weapons and you have your light weapons, and you're also assisted by a pod, and all of those dish out damage, and the game is nice enough to like show you how that looks. And I think when you're playing, one of those chips that you have, one of them definitely should be the HUD display, so you can have a good idea of your health as well as the enemy's health, so you have a better idea what's going on, right? And in this game, you get up to level 99, you have to accrue a lot of experience, but you can keep track of how much experience you're getting. And then there are quests and there are subquests that you do. Not only will you get items along the way, but you also build up experience, so you're incentivized for helping people out, and it just like comes together in a beautiful way. And then there are also like shooting segments that you have, and at least for a health sort of thing, right? Sorry, at least concerning health, it kind of functions the same. Like it's kind of based off your level, but like you still have to consider the damage that you're dishing out to like different ships and stuff like that. And also you get like a specialty ultimate sort of weapon in that mode, so you have to like consider what's going to work for you. So you have to gauge the situation. You have to see like how many people are left, how much damage you're going to get out, and note that it recharges. So when it's recharging, you have to be careful. You're like, hey, if I could get this out there and then I could be evasive while it's recharging, I have a better shot. Or you can figure out a lot of different strategies. And then like at some point there are hacking mini games where they do function a lot like the shooters, but you're taking way more damage. Like you have less of an opportunity to survive that, but you can restart the hacking game if you lose pretty easily without having to like go back to your body because you're not in a body. So in any case, they have different classes of weapons, which is pretty cool, and some of them are better more offensively than others. And throughout the game, you can evade, and you can definitely upgrade that evade. And the cool part about that is you're taking 0 damage in that split second that you're evading, and you can make that last longer as you go on. But my whole thing is that math is involved in everything that I just said, and I think that's amazing. And it's really a blast of a game, and it's very philosophical, like I said. So now I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to talk about Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And how there's a surprising amount of math in that, and it's kind of crazy. So let's get into it. So with Dragon Ball Xenoverse, it is a fighter slash RPG, and I want to talk about the basic combat real quick, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I really want to talk about a different aspect of the gameplay. But we're going to get into it. So with the basic gameplay, yes, you have the part where you're building up experience and leveling up, right? That's a big thing in these sort of games. And all your stats increase, your attack, your defense, your speed, and all that. And of course there's resource management as well, just like in a lot of other games. So you have to be cautious of the resources that you're holding, the amount of money that you have, and what's worth it. And then you're going around and you're training and you're working with different masters and you're working through like different quests or like side quests, and you have to have a good gauge of how much damage you can dish and how much damage you can take, and math is involved in all that, and you have a certain amount of controller space for your attacks and a certain amount for your ultimate attacks. So you have to be limited and look at everything that you have and make an informed decision. Because like for the regular attacks, it's like, hey, I might have just 3 of those, and I can also look at a 4 slot for gathering my energy, and I might have 2 spots for 2 different ultimate moves. So I can be selective with all that. And like I said, you're leveling up, and that's great. And so there's more to that system, but you know, outside of the novelty of it being a Dragon Ball game and you getting to choose your attacks and build that up, while there's a lot to say, that's not the part that interests me mathematically, believe it or not. I mean, like, well, it does, but not as much as another part. So when I was playing back in the day, they had this thing called like the Figurine Battles, and it was supposed to be simulating that. And I'm like, okay, so like, what is that about, right? Because it's like, is it just videos? And it turns out the simulation battles are really pretty much like a very involved card game. So like the figurines pretty much are like your main cards, and you can build decks off of them, and then you can upgrade the figurines by gaining more experience. And you have to grind, but like you reach different levels for some of them, and then you can evolve the figure and get more powerful, have better stats, and kind of go from there. And you can max all that out. And so you have a couple things going when you're actually in combat. And this is where it kind of gets crazy to me. So you have the master level, which is your level or your opponent's level. And, as you increase that level, your HP gets higher. All of that is indicated on the gauge. And then you have the actual figures themselves. So when you're in battle, you can place 3 at a time with like 2 on reserve. So you have like 5 figures that you can take into battle. And so what you want to do is you want to look at speed, because speed will determine the first rule. Who goes first. And so you get your speed, and you kind of add everything together to get your base speed, and your opponent does the same. But then it gets interesting, because once you're determining that, you have a chance for a bonus, and like different numbers come up on the screen, and they're given as a percent. And so you might see something like 160%. You might see something like 290, or you might just see like nicer numbers like 200 and 300. And so here's the thing with percents: they're just different type of numbers. They represent fractions, just like decimals do. So one of the things that you can think about is this: like, percent literally means per 100. If I have 100%, I have 100 over 100, or just 1. So it's just a different way to write 1. And something like 50%, I have 50 over 100, 50 per 100. It's just another way to write 0.5, right? Or so they all mean the same thing, like 50%, 0.5, 1/2, whatever you want to call it. So if you have a good knowledge of that going in, right, you can take advantage of that. Because if I have my combined speed being like 1400, but my opponent's combined speed for their figures is 7,000, if I'm looking at the bonus, it's not enough for me to just like not do it. It's not enough for me to just get 200 percent. I want to do more. I have to get at least 200% to win, and I have to decide that very quickly. And I say that because, right, if they have 7,000 and they can get a maximum of a 300% bonus, they can get up to 21,000. If I have 14,000, I want to get like higher than that, right? And the safest bet is to like look for something that's either 200% or higher, or something really close, so I know that I'm going to beat the opponent. And because you know you have a very very short amount of time, and there's also like charging up the spirit bomb, and you have to charge that up to 100% to dish out more damage. But like that, I won't go too far into that. But the whole thing is, you have all that, and you have items that boost that, and you know you can buy different items, and you can win different battles, gain more experience, be able to pay for more resources and all that. And once you're actually in that fight, you want to dish out as much damage as you can to the opponent, and eventually build up for an ultimate attack. And that ultimate attack will attack all the figures on your opponent's board, but it also attack their HP. And one of the key things I meant to mention before is that, so your goal is to either get rid of all the opponent's figurines or get rid of all their HP for their master player. They're that level. And that's a lot harder to do with figurines blocking. So you want to like try to circumvent that, or like dish out damage like with an ultimate attack that hits everyone. And so you're dealing with a lot of math very, very, very quickly. And so I think that's pretty interesting, because this is just like a side part. It's not even the main gameplay, but they put so much into it. And so you have like the main like fighter gameplay that you have, and there's a lot of math in that. But then you have like this card game that just came out of nowhere in that, and it's a lot of math in that too. So I think that's pretty interesting, and I don't want these videos to get too long, so I am going to cut it off soon and just say that math in gaming, there's a lot of math in gaming, and especially with combat and combat systems. So I think that's pretty interesting, and I'm going to leave a link for some of my videos that relate to this. Notably, there's one in Pokemon where I do talk about how math factors into that, and video games definitely pops up in there. And I guess, yeah, this is getting too long. But I guess I want to say one more thing about math in games. So I just spent a lot of time talking about Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and you know, it's fun to play. It's not perfect, but it's fun to play. But another game that I wanted to mention that's a Dragon Ball game is there's this Game Boy game from way back when called Dragon Ball like Z Legendary Super Warriors. It itself is a card game, and there's a lot of math in it too. And so I don't want to get into that. Just know that it's there, and it's fun, and I really enjoy the music. So all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy gaming, and I hope you now enjoy math a little bit more, because you're doing it all the time if you're a gamer in one way or another, and really just every way you're a mathematician. So anyway, I'll see y'all in the next video. Professor Prime out.